Welcome back to the DraftKings Life Podcast. I'm Jason Jones, Senior Recruitment Marketing Specialist.
And I'm Meg Powers, Talent Acquisition Associate. What's up, Jonesy?
It's fall in New England. Pumpkin spice is in the air, maybe a little too much. And we're bringing you episode 2. What's going on with you, Meg?
Not too much. Just enjoying being basic and getting all the pumpkin spice at Trader Joe's. I made so much pumpkin bread yesterday. I really shouldn't have, because now that's all I'm going to eat for the next week. But other than that, I'm good. I'm super excited about episode 2. You want to tell us about our guest we have on here today?
Yes, we have our third guest from the Dublin office. Don't tell anyone, but probably my favorite guest. Please introduce yourself, Bryan.
Hi, I'm Bryan Conneely. I'm a senior software engineering manager here in Dublin. I manage a couple of product engineering teams, and I work with other leaders around the business to ensure delivery and for sportsbook engineering.
Wonderful.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on. Today we're going to be running through some questions to get to know more about your DraftKings experience. So with that, I always like to start by just asking how you're doing with the current state of the world. How's the last couple of months been?
Well, very well. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Past couple of months have been quite well. I'm here in DraftKings now about 3 months, and I'm settling in well in this working from home model. Fortunately, I haven't been affected by COVID personally, but like everybody else, 2020 has been a bonkers year so far. So
that's for sure.
But we need a bumper sticker that says that 2020 has been a bonkers year.
I'd put that on my car. Great.
So Bryan, can you walk us through what does a typical day look like for you?
Oh, of course. So our days would typically start at around 9. We catch up with my various projects and initiatives when I come in the morning. We're 5 hours ahead of Boston, so it makes morning time quite free and time to catch up with your team and do your one-to-ones. And then around noon, folks from Boston begin to wake up, and the day really begins to kick off. Then for the rest of the day, really, my day would be split between meetings around planning, architecture, coordinating, and recruitment even. So I have many stakeholders, and every day is a little bit different, but kept busy with just keeping people up to date on what's going on. I'm also onboarding at the moment myself. I've been, like I said, in about the company about 3 months, so still getting my feet a little bit on solid ground, but there's a lot of meetings and a lot of meeting people, which is great.
Definitely. Well, I'm glad they're keeping you busy over there. So speaking of onboarding and starting at DraftKings, I'd love to hear, how did you land this job at DraftKings, and what were your first impressions of starting virtually? I know it's not exactly ideal, but I would love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, of course. Well, prior to joining, I would have done a lot of research on DraftKings. I wanted to know, what the views were on engineering and, product and the opportunity itself, especially in how that what that would mean for, say, the Dublin office, which would have been a new office. And I like what I heard. I like what people told me. And it's, apart from being a little unsure maybe of joining in a new company in the middle of a pandemic, I took the plunge, and I thought it was a great opportunity, so I went with it. And when I joined when I came in, everything that I had thought about in terms of how engineering was managed and how product was, the processes around product and how product was developed, and even the opportunity itself. What I found is that it pretty well exceeds my expectations. We've incredible supportive colleagues here, not just people in Dublin, but in the wider organization. And then, of course, there's always the the ambitious projects that, help rally people around, and, there's a real pride and purpose.
Nice, very nice. So you walked us through what a typical day looks like for you, but what does a senior software engineering manager even do at DraftKings?
Well, it's a great question, actually. We tend to work, I work with other leaders and managers around the organization. And we're responsible for, collectively, building a delivery that supports our ambitions, setting engineering standards, developing a healthy engineering culture, and managing the people. We're in a COVID time, and everyone deals with that their own way, and creating a place for people to be able to come and work and not have to worry about that and be productive and be their best self seems to be the job of an engineering manager. So we get things done, and we want to obviously deliver. We're DraftKings is in a great position. There's a great future for DraftKings, and we want to be able to contribute to that. And to be able to get to that point, we have to build a culture that people want to come and work for, and people are happy and safe. And I see it as the role of the engineering managers and other leadership to create that environment for everybody.
Definitely. That's a great answer. So you have some experience in the gaming industry. Can you walk us through some of the technical challenges that you've faced when producing responsible games?
Yeah, of course. So in an engineering, well, speed and I say scale would always be good engineering challenges. In gaming, there's also trust in the product is an interesting challenge and a very important challenge. Being able to engineer reliable systems that work when you want them to work is a core part of it. So, you can imagine, your systems, they'd be up, they'd be running, and, it mightn't be that busy. And then someone scores a touchdown or scores a goal or whatever might happen in the game you're watching. And suddenly everybody who wants to use the app all wants to use the app at the same time. So you see an incredible spike in traffic. That puts certain systems under stresses at different times. So thinking about the engineering challenge of being able to continually deliver a reliable product around those spikes is a challenge that I personally enjoy. So knowing that the product that we're delivering is fast and accurate, so that the person using the app knows that the odds or the money lines or they're all up to date, and they've got their best chance, and they're not worrying about what else might be going on in the system at the same time. So that's the challenge I personally like, and I'm happy with that.
Nice. So, excuse me. Along those lines, what is something special about the Dublin team that you've noticed since joining DraftKings?
I have to say the people. So the Dublin office itself it's only 6 months old or so. I remember it began in March, a week before the COVID lockdown. So everyone's had to pull together virtually, and there's some people who are new to the organization, and there's some people who obviously been here for a while and have come over to help us. And what we see is that the way that everyone can pull together, and despite them pardon me. So despite them being from different backgrounds or different industries before, seeing everybody come together and work and actually be productive and support the delivery of the organizational goals, I wouldn't have thought possible in this scenario, but the people are pretty special here, and it shows.
Yeah, I think Megan and I can definitely attest to how special the people in the Dublin office are, for sure.
Yeah,
there's incredible trust there. I'm sorry, Megan.
No, you're good. I was supposed to go out for a week before all of this happened. I think Jonesy was there doing the office opening, and then I was supposed to go a couple weeks later, and I obviously got canceled. But Jonesy had firsthand experience seeing how wonderful the office was, and all the people that I've helped hire, the core group that's there now. So I really look forward to being able to come out, down the line and see how much it's grown since it started with, just a handful of people there.
Yeah, it's grown quite a bit. I had no idea, Jonesy, you were over. That must have been a little before I joined.
Just before, yeah.
And I can't wait for a time where I can get on a plane and meet everybody again. That will come in time.
Definitely.
Maybe in 2022. Who knows? So Bryan, without spilling any technical secret sauce, can you share a favorite project that you've worked on so far at DraftKings?
Sure. Let me see. So, well, it's well known that DraftKings went public earlier this year, and when it merged with SB Tech. So, one of the things I've been looking at is, I've been working with our new colleagues, and they've got a rich experience in sportsbook and in this space. So we're collaborating and trying to figure out how we can leverage what they've done and bring it to market for us. And those conversations and seeing how that works has been very fulfilling.
That's awesome.
Great. I know we've touched on it a little bit, but since starting, could you talk a little bit more about the DraftKings culture and how you've seen that really come through since starting in the Dublin team, or Dublin office, I guess, virtually?
Yeah, of course. So the DraftKings engineering culture is very much based around the SRE model. So engineers own their production systems from design all the way through to the how it moves the needle and the KPIs in production. And it's a great sense of ownership, and that ownership makes sure that the engineers have that ownership and accountability in what they're doing. And there's a great sense of empowerment with that. And that then translates to a lot of trust between engineers and a lot of camaraderie, where you see people helping each other out. And I can go onto Slack now and ask questions from SRE or architecture or design or product, and I'd have 5 answers within an hour. And so even though we're all remote, and I'll call back to what I said earlier on about how easy it was to get started here, and all that culture just reinforces itself, and it's a very friendly place, and it's very healthy. The trust is there, and based on that trust, then we're able to debate things back and forth without knowing or without being suspicious of each other, which brings us to better solutions. And again, all this reinforces itself into just a healthy culture.
So putting on your hiring manager cap for a moment, Bryan, what do you look for when you are evaluating technical candidates?
Sure. Well, for technical candidates, obviously we have the teams that test all the technical hard skills. But for me, I prefer to look at the softer skills. Having positivity or a positive outlook is very important for me, and it's something I look for every time. And as well as that, for me, a sense of somebody who can trust, or someone who has a sense of trust, for me goes a long way as well. And that tends to feed into a lot of other kind of competencies and behaviors. But those two are probably the most important ones: positivity and trust.
For sure. That's
I
great.
like that. That's also a good bumper sticker. Bryan, you should just write bumper stickers for a living.
I sort of feel
positivity
like
and trust.
My mixer.
Bryan's voice, he should do one of those meditation apps.
Yeah, like on a Calm app or something.
Yeah.
I think you're the first person ever to suggest that.
Really? You'll have to tell people that that's a compliment you hear all the time now.
Yeah.
Great. And then one more, just a couple final questions here, but how do you collaborate with other teams at the company?
Well, in this remote environment, obviously the tools of the trade would be, Slack and Zoom and Confluence. And I mentioned a while ago about being able to reach into Slack and ask a question and getting all those kind of responses. It's so accurate. It's actually hard to describe the lack of barriers in communicating in here. So there's been no issues at all. In fact, it's easy to, in the day-to-day run of your role, to forget that the people you're talking to are like 6 time zones away or 3 time zones away. So collaboration has panned out to be not a challenge at all, especially in this COVID environment.
Right. Okay, final question before we move on to the last section of the podcast. But what's one piece of advice you have for a candidate who's looking to join DraftKings?
Ooh, one piece of advice. Well, some people I reach out to think that, you have to be a sports fan to work here. And if someone is looking to, join, it's good to probably say that, that's not necessarily true. Sports here is no different to if you're applying for an insurance company and you weren't that interested in insurance. There are sports fans here, but most people are not. There's engineers, we look for product people, data science, and we don't especially have a point about not restricting it to people who are fans of sports. So my advice would be, to just, if this is something you're interested in, if you like the shape of the job or the look of the role or the opportunity or the challenge, to see it as that and not look through the lens of sports.
For sure. When candidates ask me that question, sometimes I always say, for me, I'm not the biggest sports fan, but I am passionate about people. And that's why I'm in the position I'm in. And, if you're passionate about technology or, product or creating, like there's so many different avenues you can take at DraftKings, and you're encouraged to explore those, whether or not you're a sports fan or not. So,
I agree. And can I add, actually,
sure.
DraftKings is going to be one of those companies that's going to, define how this industry works for the next generation. That's a massive opportunity and challenge, and it's going to take some discovery, and it's going to need people with creative ideas and how we're going to get there, and that transcends sports. That's something else.
For sure.
Agreed.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for running through all of those with us. So now we're going to be transitioning to the last section of the podcast, which is a 2-minute drill. So since Graham is the only one who's gone through this before, we have to tally up how many questions he got through, but I have a feeling you'll do well on this, Bryan. So whenever Jonesy starts the timer, we're going to run through these questions, and if you could keep them to short-ish answers, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
All right.
Good to go. Okay, where were you born?
Galway, Ireland.
Would you rather hands that never stop growing or feet that never stop growing?
Hands or feet? Feet, I guess.
Best restaurant in Dublin?
I like getting my food in a place called Sheehan Asian Street Food on St. Anne Street. Can't do better than that.
I'll have to keep that in mind. Favorite quarantine hobby?
I developed a passion for fixing my garden. I have a garden with loads of problems that it's a great quarantine hobby.
Real green thumb.
Favorite mobile app?
I like using Lexilus. It's a kind of a Scrabble app, words with friends kind of thing.
Nice.
I have fun with that.
55 seconds.
Favorite live concert?
I'm going to say, Radiohead from like nearly 20 years ago. More recent, Flight of the Conchords. They played here last year in Dublin. That was a fun concert.
Sounds awesome. Dogs or cats?
Oh, easy dogs. Dog person for sure.
Last book you read?
Last book I read was, my God, what was it? The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. he was a 1990s Silicon Valley guy who was quite influential visionary. It's a book on culture and so on. It's very good.
Nice. Last question. Is Guinness the best beer in the world?
Absolutely it is. And now not everyone would say that, but I happen to firmly believe in that.
At the buzzard. Thank you, Bryan.
Great. Well, thanks so much for going through those. You've been great. It's awesome to get a chance to get to know you and, welcome you formally to DraftKings through the podcast. So thanks so much again for being on.
Thank you. It's been great. I've enjoyed this a lot. Thank you.
And Bryan, before we let you go, we like to close out the podcast by asking our guests, what's a motto or mantra that you live by every day?
Well, my team would say that I would, you do what you need to do, is what I tell my team a lot when they come with, questions or choices. And, there's a strong sense of ownership, so they tend to know the best path. So I kind of leave it to them to decide.
I like that. You do what you do. Short and sweet. Thank you.
Right.
And thank you for joining us today. Yeah, thank you, Bryan.
It was
thank
great
you.
to be here. I really enjoyed this. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for joining us today. And be sure to follow us on social media at DraftKings Life. As we said on the last podcast, you can now find us on all major podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google. We got you. So download, listen, and throw us a 5-star rating. So be safe, be kind, and take care.